Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing well. I just wanted to show to you this Qiblah tool that has been created by Dan Gibson. He calls it Qiblah tool, and you can see the address here on the page, nabatia.net. And if you type Qiblah tool, it will come up. This is I just want to demonstrate to you the archaeological evidence, and in fact, I should say the undeniable archaeological evidence that exists, um, proving that Petra was the original Qibla, the true Qibla, and still is the true Qibla. And later on, it was obviously changed. And this is obviously this is data talking to us. This is not a book. This is not something that is based on rumors or hearsay or he said, she said, or which is basically hadith. What is hadith? Hadith is he said, she said. It's the rumors, right? It's the rumors that are passed around. Whereas this is actually hard scientific data. Dan Gibson is his approach is kind of scientific, and he presents this as a theory. This is not a theory. This is undeniable hard data. This is fact. This is not theory. It's very obvious when you look at this data that actually Petra was the original Qibla in Islam, and obviously there's lots of historical evidence, and there's a Quranic evidence, and there is many other aspects that we can look at this, but this is actually hard data proving 100% without any doubt that Petra was the original Qibla. And the argument that usually people bring to prove to you or to argue with you that that is not the case is when they say that we don't have any evidence from the early Muslim community saying that this was that this actually the Qibla has changed. And I actually I shattered that argument in my previous video, that early Muslims knew about the Qibla, and I demonstrated to you from the early Shia groups and early Shia hadith that actually it was a very, very well known back then that Qibla had changed, and that the early Shia, I'm not talking about the current Shia, but the early Shia at the beginning of Abbasid and late Umayyads, they were actually awaiting the Qibla to be changed to its original form, what they used to call the Qibla of Noah or Nuh. So Qiblatan Nuh. So let me just share something. This would be a quick video. As you can see in this list, you can choose. Basically, Dan Gibson and his team have created a very nice feature that you can actually choose the mosques that point their qiblas point towards Petra. So for example, you can come here and choose Mecca, and it will show you all the early mosques that their qibla points towards Mecca. But if you look at Petra, it will show you all these mosques, early mosques in the history of Islam, and that they are actually pointing towards Petra. And interestingly, if you look at this, one of them that you see is actually the Kaaba, the current Kaaba in Mecca, Saudi Arabia. This was built at about 78 after Hijrah, 78 AH, as you can see here. But this Kaaba, the Qibla, it has a Qibla, and its Qibla is actually Petra. And interestingly, Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem was built in 90 AH after Hijri, and the Qibla of that mosque is also Petra. So if you look here, from literally as early as 8 years after Hijra, up until to many years ago. You can see the dates here. You can look at the Common Era, and you can also look at the AH, and you can after Hijri, and you can see the mosques were still being built, and the qiblas were pointing towards Petra. So a lot of people knew about this, and this is most of the early mosques. Most of any of the early mosques that has a state, unless there were some construction and they changed the qibla, they actually point towards Petra. So this is undeniable physical. This is what we call hard evidence. This is archaeological evidence proving that Petra was the original Qibla. No one can deny this. This is there. You can actually go and check a lot of these mosques yourselves across the world in Middle East. There is still, even as of today, they are pointing towards Petra. And obviously you can look at Mecca, and something that is very interesting, if you look at the Mecca, really is just, it starts at about 81 years after. So it's literally the earliest time that you find these mosques, and there are not that many of them actually compared to Qibla. It's 81 after Hijra, or about 700 years, 700 CE. So this is right around Abdul Malik ibn Marwan, and I have made that name. You have to remember, he is the one who changed the Qibla. Abdul Malik ibn Marwan and Yusuf ibn Hajjaj. These are the ones who changed the Qibla to the current Qibla that exists in Mecca, Saudi Arabia. The original Qibla was in Mecca, or original Mecca in Petra, Jordan. So if you look at all these mosques, these are later mosques. These are all about 81, 88. And it makes sense. Why? Because as I demonstrated to you, the Kaaba, even you can see it here, I brought it up here, Kaaba was built at 78. So for about 8 to 10 years, you don't have any mosques really built towards it, because it was probably a shock. And the way Abdul Malik ibn Marwan forced everyone to accept it was by force. You would either be killed, and you would be cut into pieces, and your body parts would be sent across the empire. And remember, they were ruling from east of Iran to Europe, and to Egypt, to Morocco, to Spain. So it was really what you technically would not have had any escape from the Umayyads. So either you would be cut into pieces and killed, or you had to accept this. So the only option back then, the true believers, the true Muslims, the early Muslims, the only option they had left was going underground. They were going underground. So you would come out in the street, you would pretend that you were an Umayyad Muslim, a Sunni Muslim, and you would go underground, and over there in your own houses, secretly you would practice true Islam. And that's why you have the narrations from the early Shia at the time of Ja'far al-Sadiq, that the Qibla has been changed, and the Qibla will eventually be restored to its original Qibla. So and I proved to you from early Shia hadiths that actually it was very common knowledge that Qibla had been changed, and this Kaaba, this Mecca, is not the true Kaaba. Early Muslims knew that. And unfortunately, Dan Gibson does not point to that, because obviously, as you know, Dan Gibson is a Christian. He does not believe in Prophet Muhammad. He does not believe in the Quran. He sees the Quran as some sort of a book written by some sort of a person, not a holy book. So his source of research is hadith and sayings, and mainly he's looking into Sunni hadith. And obviously Sunni hadiths these are the people who actually killed and massacred the children of and the true believers and the family of the prophet. These were the ones who massacred the disciples of the prophet and their children, the children of Omar, the children of Abu Bakr, Hassan, Hussein. They massacred all of these people. So these were the people who actually destroyed Kaaba and built the new Kaaba in Mecca, Saudi Arabia. So you don't really need to look there, because you're not going to find anything there. These are the people who disbelieved. They didn't believe in that. So that's why you have to really look into alternative sources, and that's the Shia sources. When you look in there, you actually find that the original Qibla is in Petra, and I mentioned that. I made a video. I went over all those hadiths. And the other thing is that because Dan does not believe that Quran is the word of God, he does not believe that there is any sort of prophecy in it. He just looks at it as historical narrative of someone who just invented his own book and attributed to God. Whereas that's not the case. Prophet Muhammad, remember, he's the last prophet. We believe in Prophet Muhammad. He's the last prophet. He's the prophet. He's the prophet that Moses in Deuteronomy 18 promised. He's the prophet, An-Nabi. He's the prophet. He's also the prophet mentioned in the book of Solomon. He's altogether Muhammadan. He's altogether Muhammadan. We believe in Prophet Muhammad. Prophet Muhammad is the last prophet, and the book that was given to Prophet Muhammad is the word of Allah. Is as beautiful, if not more beautiful, than the book of than the books that exist in the Bible, in the Old Testament, the Torah, and it's filled with prophecies. And for those of you who have watched my channel, I prove it almost every video. I demonstrate the wisdom of the word of Allah and how beautiful it is, and the prophecies. In fact, if you believe in the Quran, you don't need to look at all these hard evidences. Quran actually tells you that the Qibla is changed, and also Quran tells you that the Qibla will be restored back to its original place in Petra, Jordan, sometime in the future. And Allah allowed this to happen as a testing ground, Quran tells us. Now that's another video. I will demonstrate that to you. But I just wanted to share this with you because this is beautiful. I mean, this is undeniable, really undeniable evidence. You can't argue with this. This is as good as it gets. And you can't really argue with this. And this is hard evidence proving that Petra was the original Qibla of the Muslims. And again, what happened was that the Umayyads, early Muslims, disbelieved. There was a fitna, and Quran actually talks about it. Again, I go through these verses. Please watch the video that I made about the rightly guided one. And I go through all the Quranic verses prophesying that this is going to happen. And please watch my video about Ahmad, and also the other video I made about early Muslims knowing that the Qibla had changed. And you're going to see in the Quran the prophecies, because Quran is the word of our Creator. Quran is the word of the one who created the heavens and the earth. It's the word of Allah, our Creator. So it has and when Allah talks, when our Creator talks, for him everything is done, past, present, future. He has heard these conversations from before he created Adam. He knows the future from before. For him, past, present, future, everything is right there. He's seeing it, he's hearing it, and he knows it. He's Al-Alim, all-knowing, Al-Sami', all-hearing, and Al-Basir, all-seeing. Everything. He has seen it, he has heard it, and he knows it. So that's why if you look at the Quran, everything is in there. Everything that is supposed to happen in Islam after Prophet Muhammad is in there. And the Qibla is in there. But this is really good in terms of archaeological evidence, in terms of considering that, pointing to the fact that Petra is the original Qibla. However, in terms of the elements, in terms of the symbols of Hajj, such as Safa, Marwa, Arafat, you have to go to the Quran, because Dan Gibson really just follows the hadith of the Sunni hadith and is trying to replicate the current Mecca in Petra, and that is not going to work, because that is the work of Satan. You can't replicate the work of God based on the work of Satan. Okay, brothers and sisters, peace and blessings to all of you.